missing the TG.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, happy Sunday to everybody out there in crypto Twitter. How you doing, Storm?
Good.
Excellent. We decided to we'll wait for some more people to join, give it a few minutes. We decided to do a little education tonight. We've noticed that most people are getting rugged on everything that they do in crypto lately. Maybe we can give you a few pointers to reduce the amount of rugging.
Yeah, I definitely need that advice.
Yeah, me too.
Last 2 months have been a lot of rugs.
100%. And I think there are some things, though, that you can do that will help make you rug a little bit less, which would be nice if we could reduce the amount that people rug just by like 2% even.
Yeah, and it's really, really simple. The few things to watch out for, the small little details that take you, a minute before you jump into a play could save you a lot of money.
I agree. Let's go over some of those things. Just wait for some more people to join. Let this boot up a little bit. Usually takes a few minutes for everybody to join and get in here.
What's up, Sis? Shout out Sis in Russia. My guy, different time zones.
Yeah, we got people from all over the world joining us here. That's what's beautiful about crypto. It brings everybody together from all over. And when you get rugged, you can get destroyed from all over. It's been a little bit slow this past day, but I feel like the markets are going to look really nice this week. Everything's gearing up very nicely for some big moves. Just a lot of resistance has been taken out of the market. And when that market starts to get exciting, you're going to want to start aping into all sorts of things. I mean, obviously, you have conviction plays. We strongly encourage you to keep a majority of your money in either conviction plays, if you're in the meme world, or generally you can keep it in more stable coins like Ethereum or Solana. So there's different levels, but needless to say, all the degens watching here are going to be looking for, the next autistic cat or the next chicken with knife, whatever that play is going to be. And maybe we can help you find a little bit of a safer chicken with knife when you see it on trending or wherever it might be.
Yep.
So I think the first thing I would say is that there's nothing that can't get rugged. Eventually, probably everything is going to end up being a rug if people sell. But you can give yourself a little more longevity in this meme coin world by just doing a couple of things here. The first thing I would say you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not entering a honeypot. I'm going to share my screen here because although people are often speaking about, oh, I really hate when people sell on the chart, you do want a chart that people can actually sell on if they want to, because if they can't sell at all, congratulations, have found yourself in a honeypot. It was a random coin I decided to ape into. It felt good on the meta, but it ran into some problems here regardless of checking everything. There's a couple of things you can do though, and it could go back up, but there's a couple of things you want to do. First of all, if you're looking on Dex Screener and also on Dex Tools, you're going to see these audits over here. They always have issues. The whitelist they normally have, They'll oftentimes have a blacklist. I would ignore those if the ownership is renounced. That means the person who made the contract can't touch it anymore, so you don't really have to worry about that. And I don't really fully trust these audits either. I like to use either TTF bot or like Safe Analyzers, some good bots out there that will check your contract to make sure if initially you are already have no chance at winning. Same thing with Quick Intel, um, Token Sniffer here. Very often you'll see a 0 out of 100, no matter what, if it's good or bad. Gonna go take a look at it now, and you'll see something interesting. Even though it shows a 0 out of 100 on the project page, you can see it's actually 100 out of 100. So if they have not updated Dex Screener, then the score is often not updated right away. That's the basics. So the first thing is you want to make sure your contract is just safe. It's been renounced. You also want to check over here, go back to the page. You also want to check that the liquidity is locked. So there's two types. You have burnt liquidity. That means the LP token was sent to a dead address. They can no longer take the liquidity out of the project. Other option they have now is locking the liquidity. Sometimes they lock it for a little bit of a marketing boost. If it's locked for 3 months, 6 months, 40 years, I've seen up to like 200 years locking, you're probably going to be okay because most of these plays are not so long. So if you have it locked for a number of months to years, I think it's fine to go into. What's your opinion on that?
I agree. I mean, I think liquidity being locked is if, as a dev, there's no reason not to. So very important. In terms of how long the liquidity should be locked for, that's kind of up in the air. I mean, it really depends on how you see yourself investing in that play. If you want that play to be like a long-term bull run investment that you might be holding for a year or two, you got to really look into if the liquidity is only locked for a month or two, that could be a problem, right? So but for me, it's like I'd say majority of these plays, especially like really low market caps, like this one was, when you first hear about it on launch, you're not probably going to be in it too deep for more than a couple months. So for me, it's like as long as it's a couple months, I'm fine. You do want to be checking though, because there are times where I've aped kind of quick plays that have turned into long term plays, and you kind of forget how if the contract or if the liquidity is still locked and kind of what's going on. So important to kind of keep up to date with, maybe write it down when you ape into the coin, just so you remember. But yeah, for me, a couple months is pretty standard, but definitely 100%. Like the first basic rule is make sure the liquidity is locked.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely not a conviction play in any way. This is felt good. You got Pepe, you got the Telegram guy who's been arrested, so it felt like a good meta. So I'm just using this as an example for aping shit coins. The next thing, let's look over on the next tab, and we can look at the fundamentals of how to pick a good coin in a little bit maybe, but this is more just safe practices. The next thing that I want to look over is the holder distribution. Now the holders over here are very often not updated. So I like to go to the actual Explorer, click on holders, and the same thing applies if you go to Dex tools, for example. And I like to just look at the distribution here. So a couple of things I want to see. One is I like that the liquidity pool has about 35%. If it's like at 80% over here or 60, it's hard for the market to move. And on these types of coins, you're going to get stuck often if that market cap isn't moving. People like to see that fast movement. Then the next thing I like to see is like who are the top, not who, but what are the top holders holding over here? At a market cap of this low, 4.8, 4.6, 4.5, it's not terrible. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible. You want to see those go a little bit lower as you see the market cap go up. Like that would be pretty high if I didn't know the people. If it was at like 100, 150, a million, that type of market cap. And then sometimes I'll take a look and just see like who are the people that are holding these amounts. I'll just go ahead and see. First of all, I can see that they bought it off of Uniswap, so it wasn't that the dev transferred this money in and it has a bunch of tokens. And I'll give you a great place, everybody, actually a really cool place to look more into that in a moment. Then I'll just look at the top holders, and I want to see like what are they holding. This guy looks like a degen over here. He's got $28 in ETH, and he's got some random stuff going on. Well, I'm okay, but it also doesn't, from a strategic standpoint, it doesn't tell me like, oh, there's a whale holding down the top position. Maybe there's something bigger going on.
That looks like also it could maybe be a bot. It looks like just from the transactions. I don't know if you want to go back to that, but you can see, yeah, there's just a lot of transactions, and with having a low amount of liquidity, it's just a lot. I feel like it could be a sniping bot or something like that. I don't know. Actually, that's probably not as many as you'd see on a bot. There's a lot of times, though. I'd say a lot of times, majority of the top wallets on like a very new launch, a lot of them tend to be snipers and stuff. And the easy way to check for that is just go to their history and then just see if it's like in and out, in and out, in and out. That's a good sign of a bot, unless someone's like just scalp trading all day on Memecoins, which is pretty rare. The other thing I was going to say too, as a side note on the top holder counts, because very basic, but some people don't know this. I had actually somebody message me about Dodo's distribution and said, hey, the top holder's got like 25% allocation, but the top holder is going to be an exchange. So like that number one, the very actual number one, where it says Uniswap, that's the liquidity that Uniswap provides, liquidity wallet. So that's not an actual person that owns 35% allocation. It's an exchange, and typically you'll have multiple, like on bigger tokens, you'll have the top 2 or 3 wallets be exchanges. But for this one, it looks like there's only one exchange wallet, which is Uniswap. So,
and that's a DEX. It's not a centralized exchange. You won't really see that at this low. But yeah, if you see like Mexi owns a bunch, that's fine. That's just an exchange liquidity pool. You sometimes have multiple liquidity pools. I think that's a great analysis. We could look at another, see if there's anything more interesting. This guy has 4 ETH, which is pretty high for a degen going into these types of plays. Got a lot of tokens, so this one could be sort of a sniper. If we look at the token transfers, we're seeing back and forth from Ethereum. That could be a bot, just the behavior of it going in and out.
Yeah, that looks like a bot. The other thing you can check too, right? There are some people who do a lot of transactions in Scout, but also people have to sleep too, right? So if you see like over a 24-hour period, there's no more than an hour between, transactions, and it's got to be a bot, unless that person's not sleeping, which is possible too in this world. But yeah, it's pretty clear for me when I look for a bot. It's usually fast trend, like tons of transactions, and then if there's a line of a 24-hour period where there's constant transactions, that's a sure sign that it's probably a bot getting in and out of stuff. That's not an actual human that's making those decisions. So,
and you can also see sometimes it will actually say the type of bot is, the type of transaction is from a bot. So it is actually pretty clear. Now, this website, gmgn.ai, is actually a really great resource for looking up about bots and dev wallets. Let's go pull up this contract that we're looking at right now. Moving a little bit slow here. I think I clicked it. So this is actually another place that you can check, especially on fresh launches, how safe this is. Wait for this to load up. So it's similar to Dex Screener, Dex Tools. It gives you a lot of the basic information. But I want to show you specifically what I'm looking at over here. Also holders. I mean, if you see a coin that has like 25 holders, probably a problem.
Yep.
This one here has 97. That's fine for this size. But this actually shows you some things right away that are really solid. First thing we can look at over here is snipers. So we see that these snipers had stuff transferred to them, the ones with the orange. And then we see probably the dev wallet. It looks like the dev might be in it for a little bit longer because the dev has sold nothing. So I don't mind if I see all of those. And then we see most of the other snipers have sold. Originally, they had 80% of it. Now they have 18%. Remember, there's only 90 something holders here, around 100, which is okay. So if some of the 70 holders are still holding something, that's not the end of the world because we don't have a ton of holders over here. That's one thing I like to look at right away. So if I see something that I don't like how it looks, and all of these snipers are still holding, I'm going to be cautious. The little circles, the yellow circles show snipers. I'm going to be cautious. But if I see the first 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those look like probably the dev wallets that are holding something. So I'm okay with that. Maybe it's helping hold it down, and it could be a positive thing. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, so that's what I was going to say earlier too. Meant to throw that in as well. But another important thing, I feel like this is kind of a controversial subject, especially right now, because you have a lot of projects that go under heat for this. But in my opinion, right, a lot of people throw around like the whole the team has too much distribution, or the team has 20% distribution, or they own 30-40% of the supply. For me, it really comes down to who the team is and how much you trust them, right? So for me, I'd way rather have a base team that I either know or respect, that has a long record, a long history of not rugging plays, pushing good tokens. I'd rather have them have a larger distribution and control the main distribution of the coin, rather than have random whales or just random retail in general control most of that supply. Because a good team, a good dev, they'll hold the distribution, right? That's the whole point of. I mean, if obviously they have a long-term vision of the project, they're going to hold the majority of the distribution, especially in the early parts of the project. Whereas, retail investors, whales, it's very unpredictable, right? So I would be fine, honestly, even with a team holding down like 30+% of distribution, as long as they're a base team, they're well vetted. You got to do your homework a little bit, but yeah, for me, it's like so controversial because people will say, hey, look, there's the top 3 wallets are connected. The team has 8%, 10%, and people think that's super bad because, the general rule of thumb is like, over anything over 3% and a single wallet, people think is not good. So they think like the team shouldn't own collectively more than 3 to 5%. But I disagree with that. I would rather have my team, the team of a token I'm buying, trusted team, have more higher percent of distribution.
I agree. I'd like to have if it's a good team, I'd actually want them to have as much supply as possible because
Yeah.
that helps maintain the floor. It helps stability. It provides a lot easier upward trajectory, and it removes a lot. Every single holder is technically a liability or a variable in a way.
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
less variables you have, the better. But of course,
Yes.
all of that comes with the caveat of, is the team good? So if you do have those situations, you want to make sure you're dealing with a team that is good, a team that you trust. That's going to be very important with that, of course.
Yes. 100%.
And that's why I don't really care about bubble maps so much if I know the team. It's not the biggest thing for me, to be honest. I just like to see how people are holding and what they're doing. And at a lower market cap, it doesn't mean that much. Also, you could have a group of friends that may, let's say, go in together, and all you need is one transaction between them, or
Hmm.
someone uses some type of transfer program, and
Yep.
that's how they connect them. It doesn't always
Yep.
mean that these are, actually connected scheming wallets.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Like if I sent Storm, I don't know, $8.88 to appear on the live stream, for example, it's just completely hypothetical. Our wallets are now connected forever. And if we aped into something together or even didn't know, we now appear in a bubble, but it doesn't mean that there's any coercion or anything shady going on.
Yeah, and that's
Eh,
important too. Is it's that bubble map that's forever. It's not just that project. So, like you said, if I'd sent one of my friends or Blood Boy like $2 for gas fees on Sol, a year ago, and we tried launching a project right now, it would show us as connected wallets, and you would assume that we're the same person, or part of the same team, whatever. And that's not necessarily always true. So bubble maps are good to check, but again, like for me, the team is one of the most important aspects of when I'm aping into a coin, especially early on. And for me, I want my team and the devs of a token I'm buying to be able to hold most of the supply and control that supply. Like you said, there's less variables.
And on the flip side, if someone really wants to avoid bubble maps, it's free to create wallets. It takes 5 minutes to avoid them. It does not really make much of a difference.
Yeah.
The next thing we can look at over here is it will give you a little bit of information on the dev if what they have done. So you can click over here, and you should be able to click over here. The dev has added liquidity, so that's a good thing. And then we can go and look at the holders over here. We can filter them by different types. So we have insiders over here. It's still being calculated, but what that would do after a little bit, it will show you if there's any insiders that were transferred directly from the dev, and then you could see what type of holders they are. So if you saw that like 30% are owned by transfers from the dev, and dev's already rugged, and then they're still holding a lot, that could be something of a concern, for example.
Yeah.
We see over here, these look like the wallets that were the top ones. These have not really sold anything, so maybe they have a little bit of a longer term plan. They're holding it down. They're not really desperate to sell at this level. It helps hold floor. I'm not against it. You can keep an eye on it, but these are early snipers, so you can take a look at that. And there's so many different scenarios. I don't really want to get into all the different scenarios there because there's many ways to look at it, but it's good knowledge to have. The
Yeah.
next part you can go to is the activity. Looking at the activity, we can go ahead and first of all look at the snipers, and we'll actually should show you.
A side note too on the snipers, just because again, this is kind of a hot topic thing too. Bobo specifically, right? A lot of people called like this was happening a couple months ago. But just because there's snipers, like very early buyers, like right as a contract is lost or launched, doesn't also necessarily mean that that's like colluding team members sniping and getting early allocation. A lot of times they're just sniping bots, and most programs will actually tell you that they're sniping bots. But I remember when a lot of the drama was going down a couple months ago about like Bobo being sniped, the allocation being sniped, and it not being a fair launch. Most of those were bot snipes. So yeah, just something to note too. Just because a project gets early sniped, there's a lot of times when you launch a project, you have no control over that. There's bots that run through Dex, scan Dex screener, look for volume, and they'll snipe pretty much anything. So.
Yeah, and it's a good point that you bring up. So we see a lot of bots that have spot and sold over here. And that's why when we look at the snipers, we see that all these snipers have sold. Rows 2, 3, and 4 basically have all sold. But then we see all the ones in the beginning have not sold. So there's a good chance that these are dev wallets
Yeah.
because they're grouped, because they're the first. And I sort of like that they're holding. It could be a positive sign. I mean, we're at a $10,000 market cap, so we can be a little bit more lenient.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the future. But this, to your point, this sort of helps separate the difference between the sniper wallets and dev wallets, I think, when I see a group that is doing a similar thing.
Yeah, and that was what was ironic too about the Bobo sniping wallets is the couple of sniping wallets that had held, or that were considered like the dev or the team of Bobo that were actual wallets and not bots, had held the entire time. This was a couple months ago when Bobo was over 200 million market cap and they hadn't sold a dime, and people were complaining that these team members or whatever, it was, it could be friends of the dev. It could be so many options, right? So many different people. It could be reasons why, market makers, etc. But they hadn't sold a dime of any of the top wallets. And so to me, that's like, wow, you have, this allocation of a coin that's over 200 million and they've held without selling a dime. And where's the scam there, So, yeah, it's just something to note. But I think that kind of all got exposed a couple months ago. And I think blew over, but it's just important for people to know because we live in a time in crypto where everything's supposedly a scam, and you can find sniping bots on every project. You can find, connected wallets in every project. If you do enough digging, you can create a narrative, right? You can find some sort of narrative to make a team or a coin look bad. And that was a super big trend for a couple months. And yeah, you just got to know better, right? You got to, of course, you want to see the signs, but you also got to know like when something's an actual scam or if it's just kind of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I think that it all comes down to intent. If you have a good intention, all these things that people are saying are bad, like snipers, Aristocats brought up a good option, and Tyler will get to you in a moment after this. Bundlers are another way where instead of sniping, you basically see them send out a bunch to different people right away from the contract deployer. It's like a bundle. You also is something that's interesting to look at is sometimes they'll put in the bundle some like big, well-known whale wallets. So if you're looking to, and I personally hate doing this, I like to only see if they've bought it themselves. And even then, there's many different reasons whales go into stuff. But if you're looking at a whale wallet and you see that it owns something, you really want to make sure that it bought and that it wasn't a transfer. Because if it was a transfer, they could bundle, throw a couple of whales in, and then all of a sudden, whale A, B, and C have the allocation or they have a high hold. They're one of the top holders, but they never may have even known that the coin existed.
Right, right. For sure. Yeah, and also the other thing with bundling and like early transfers and stuff like that. Again, that goes kind of back to the bubble maps. You also don't really know the reasoning behind those transfers or why, X, Y, and Z wallet was transferred maybe, 0.5% of allocation early on or a percent of allocation. A lot of people don't understand how complicated it is to run a token, especially the bigger ones. They're paying market makers, advertisement teams, they have multiple team members, right? That a lot of times get paid an allocation. And so you don't really know. I think people just assume, oh, like they're sending out early allocation for people like to other wallets so they can dump, but that's not necessarily true. It's running a coin. It's so much more complex than that. And you really don't know from the surface level why they did that or what's going on. So
Yeah, I mean, if I was, and again, like Blood Boy was a CTO, so I never really had these types of options. But frankly, if I was going to launch a coin, I would probably bundle a crap load of it, put
yeah,
it in with team supply,
yep,
set aside stuff for marketing, set aside stuff for exchanges, and control, like sort of like Brett did, as much of that as I could possibly do to
yep,
remove the variables. And at the end of the day, it would be what we do in the long term that creates trust,
yes,
and nothing else, because everything else is meaningless unless you have good or bad intent. But with good intent, these tools can actually be used to really help a coin go further. The other
one,
thing that you can look at over here is you can look at the dev wallet and see what activity they did. So you see that they bought, and then it sold $667 worth. It's not a lot of activity here. I think that it still holds some wallets, to be honest, because it's paid for trending. This one paid for like double trending. There's cost to launch it, and then it only sold 600 and something dollars. So maybe it feels that with a good team, it can go further.
yeah,
And the devs saying, "Hey, I'm just going to let it go." It doesn't look like there was a total dump because
yeah,
that's only $670, and we see some of those initial sniper wallets, like 8 or 9 of them as being untouched. Again, this could go many different directions, but these are just things that you can look at to help keep yourself safe, or at least help you make more informed decisions on what you want to do. Then insiders, I don't think this one is calculated insiders. Let me just click on a random one here, and it'll probably show insiders on a different coin. Give me a second. Yeah, right here. So, and I don't even know what this token is. Redo. Uh, okay, so this one here This one's at 800,000. I don't know if it's good or bad or anything, but what you do see here is that there are insiders. You got 11.42%. So you have wallets that were probably transferred. It could be like a bundler that happened on this one. So you have holders that are insiders actually on this. So this will tell you that. And that's, again, that's data. What you do with the data, that's for you to use your time in crypto Twitter, your connections, your networking, the information we're giving you. So you see there is a lot of looks like bundled or insider wallets. Is it good? Is it bad? That all depends on the intent, but this is more information that you can use to help yourself. So after you look at all of this, you've gotten a good information about the holders. You've looked at how are the snipers looking, um, how are the dev wallets looking. Then you can go to bots. I use Telegram bots like TTF bot or Safe Analyzer, and they'll scan the contract pretty well, actually. It's nothing's ever perfect, and they'll tell you if there's external contracts that are connected that could manipulate it. They'll tell you if it's probably a honeypot or not. Another thing they'll tell you is the taxes. You want to make sure that the taxes aren't extremely high. Sometimes there's something called clog in the beginning, a little bit of a higher tax to help fund the token and slow things down to prevent snipers. If there's high taxes in the beginning, snipers won't go in. And then with enough transactions, they go down. But you want to make sure that there isn't like 100% sell tax, because then that is a honeypot essentially. Those are things to look at. You also can look at the type of holders that you have on TTF bot. I really like. We can link these below after the show. We do not get a affiliate, although thinking back, Storm, we probably should have set up our affiliate program before this show
Should have
for
applied.
these bots.
Should have applied.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to them about reverse affiliation for people who promote their products but forget to get affiliate links. But that's our problem. But another thing that I can do is it can look at the type of holders. So, for example, it'll tell you if there's whales or sharks, they call them. Whale wallets hold over $50,000. Sharks hold over 20,000. This will get skewed if they like transferred to whales and they didn't buy. But you can quickly look through the top holders and you might see like, hey, there's a $150,000 Andy whale that owns this coin. Maybe there's something going on. Oh, there's 5 whales. So
Yes.
if I see a meta and I see 2 similar looking coins and one has more whales in it than the other, I'm more likely to go into the one with more whales just because I know that network the whales have, the net worth they have, and just the general narrative of what's happening is something that could be beneficial to me. But again, these are just data points. They don't tell the whole story.
I agree.
Aristocrats, Sizz says smart, deal with Blood Boy. Exactly. That is the safest thing that you can do. Bundles can happen even later on, not just the beginning, but is more common at launch to pump the price and drain the buyers of liquidity. Yeah, it definitely can happen like that. I have seen it when it happens later. You can usually see that in the contract deployer. If you look at we can go over there in a moment. But again, that's the negative side of it. The positive side would be they've bundled it to controlled supply and they're holding it so that they can maintain that floor and hopefully control price so that it can keep going up and do more with it. And then eventually you have market makers and things like that. Speaking of the deployer, here's another cool thing you can do. If you go over to Explorer,
I like that you say deployer and not dev, because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference. And the people who are launching Solana coins, they're deployers, they're not developers. And a lot of times deployers, like if you're going to deploy a Solana pump fund, you're not actually creating or developing the token or any of the code or anything like that. You're just deploying the token. And really what these teams are, they're not devs, right? They're deployers and marketers. And I think that's important because you want if you're going to follow a team and buy a token because of a team, you want people who know how to market, who know how to push, who are well connected. That's also where, checking the big whale wallets holders early on to see who's holding. Are there, people is there a wallet that holds $1 million worth of Pepe that just bought? That could tell you something. So
yep. We've had that a lot in Blood Boy, but yeah, I don't know if there's any $1 million Pepe wallets on this one. To be honest, I didn't do deep research. Just felt, hey, you got Pepe, you got Pave. It felt like a good Sunday afternoon place to put $200 in and see what happens. But looking at the contract deployer, and you're right, a dev is more technical, but really not these days. We can look at the contract creator. So we click here, and here's some more things that you can see to make sure that it's good. First of all, renounce. Is it? I need to wait. It's not even sharing this tab. Hang on. My apologies. Let me go back here. After you click on there, you can then click on contract creator. And then you could see a little bit of information from there. Very often they're funded by like Binance or an exchange earlier in the day that they made it just to keep themselves as anon as possible. They do have a good amount of Ethereum in here, actually. I'm not sure how. We could look into if they had sold a bunch, but they brought 2.5 ETH in. I'm not sure. We could find out if we dug through. We can see if it's from sales and transfers back, but I'm not really sure. The first thing you can see is it says renounce ownership. Sometimes it doesn't update on DEX tools or DEX screeners right away. And if you have a good feeling about it, you can check here, and then you sort of get a front run on people who are using DEX screener and DEX tools by checking here to see if it's been renounced. And it's always good to confirm here anyways. So this is looking at the deployer, and then you could, if you go over to token transfers, if we're talking about transfers over here, so we see that they transferred out to the contract, open trading. I don't see much of a bundling over here, but I'd have to go through all the transactions. But sometimes there's good information that you can find scanning through these in more detail, looking through all the transactions to see when things were bundled, how they were bundled. And sometimes there's just clues that show you something really strange is going on, or there's a secondary contract, and those are good signs that you should probably avoid it. It's interesting here.
Aristocrats also brought up, he said a comment when you were talking that goes along that same point that's actually really important. You could probably read it, I guess. But that's a really good point. I don't know if you want to read it and then talk about it. But
another thing I've seen to check for scams is look at deployer wallet. They'll use things like disperse.app to send 0.0s to hundreds of people to inflate holder count. Yeah, so holder count can be inflated through a dispersion to many wallets, and I've actually seen times that inflates holder count. I don't think it happened on this because it got 97 holders. It's pretty normal, but I've actually seen one time I saw this scam where there was a series of coins that they kept doing, and they were basically sending like 80% of the supply to like 150 or 250 wallets. Someone hold a little, someone hold more. And then at some point, all those wallets would just sell at once. And they were actually doing it multiple times in a row. Aristocrats, thank you. And I got rugged a little bit on it because I hadn't dug in so deep, but then I dug in a little deeper and I saw a series of coins that they were just sending out all this fake supply of different varying amounts through a disperse.app type of program. I don't think it was that specifically, but you could scroll through and see all the wallets, and some would get 1%, some 0.5, some 0.25. And there were so many that they were sending to that in reality it was like 70% or 80% of the team wallets, and then a small amount of people that they were just farming.
Yep.
So you can, I don't want to dig through all of these transactions. I don't have specific examples from here that I see problems with, but you can dig through the contract deployer and see a lot of information for the good, for the bad. And again, all of this is data. So it doesn't say that you're going to be rugged or you're not going to be rugged, but it can help you learn. That's what's really cool about the blockchain is everything is shown.
Yep. Yep, I agree. That's one of the coolest things about all this is, I mean, obviously you can still scam, but most of the time, if you get rugged or get scammed, the information was there, the signs were there, probably that you could have probably avoided it. Not all the time, you know. Sometimes people will rug you that you trusted, but a lot of times, if you're gonna ape in coins that you don't know the team very well or whatever, the signs will be there that it's a shady coin. So
100% agree. And we can go, let's take a look real quickly. So I had that theory that possibly, guys, moving a little bit slow over here. Here. I had that theory that possibly the first wallets are dev wallets. So you could dig in a little bit deeper. You can look aristocrats while we're scanning this. You can look at any new trending Sol coins filtered by transactions to see a lot of examples of bundling, buying 14 cents at a time like crazy. Yeah, you see that a lot on Solana where there's just like nonstop cricket looking transactions. Crickets are just like the tiniest transactions on Dex Screener. But if we look over here, let's just go to one of these sniper wallets we had a hypothesis about. Click on here and we should be taken to the wallet. Give me a second. Okay, so we see this wallet over here. I like to look on Dex Screener. This will give me some information, but I like to look on Etherscan. Obviously, there's SolScan and other places for different chains. I'm just talking Ethereum for now. There's also different bots and different tools for different chains, and they're pretty easy to find these things. Aristocrats. A live example now is Goku on Sol. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I was rugged on a Goku 6 months ago on Solana, so I personally don't have a good experience with Gokus. What I do have a good experience with is our Goku meme for Blood Boy, which is absolutely amazing. So this one's here, a banana gun. Usually snipers use those very often, banana guns. And when we look at the transaction hash of this initial wallet, let's see if we spot anything interesting. They actually bought. They just got in really, really early. They bought from Uniswap. So it wasn't a bundler, but it could be that the deployer, dev, contract creator, whatever, just had that early access to when it was happening. And they were able to get in really early. My hypothesis of why it's the dev wallet is just that all of those are holding. They're in a row and they're the first one. Does not give us any input data. Another thing I just realized that's good to look at is if you're looking for like a I'd say not a good thing, 1 cent at a time, 100 of them. Yeah, usually not, and they're real annoying when you're trying to track your transactions. It's just flooding with these silly little transactions. You could look at the transfers and sort of open them up a little bit, and you can scan through these transaction pages on the, go over here to the token page. You can look through the transactions that are happening, and if you see here, you see that they sold Pape for $61 worth of ETH, and then they swapped to Spotty. So that's just Uniswap. They went from one coin to another. None of this is alpha. This is a complete example of aping shitcoins and trying to be safe. But what you can also check over here is the transaction fees, and you can look to see if there's taxes. If there's taxes over here that are high in these transactions for almost everybody, then there's a good chance that there's some sort of honeypot happening or maybe an external contract call, and you could just check the transactions to see if there's extra taxes that have occurred. So those are some real basic things that you can do. Obviously, there's a million other scams, but and probably other things to keep you safe. And none of these things tell you if it's a good coin or not, but these are at least good research that you can do to start off the process of helping yourself get rugged a little bit less, or at least, get rugged the right way, get rugged with dignity.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tokyo Moon asks, what do you think of token locks, third-party contracts like Streamflow? I've never heard of Streamflow, but what I believe token locks are similar to burning tokens, but I guess token locks would be they would get them back after a period of time, almost like locking liquidity for a period of time. But they're, if it's a deployer or a team, they can send and lock their tokens for a period of time rather than like sending to a burn wallet, where if you send to a burn wallet, it's gone forever. My opinion on that, I mean, I think it's a decent idea. It's definitely not a bad thing necessarily. But if, like, let's say the deployer goes and they take 10% of allocation and they send it to Streamflow, right? And they lock those tokens. Everybody knows, let's say they do it for a week. Everyone knows in a week from now, tons of coins are coming back to that wallet, and that could create a lot of fear, like a massive sell-off potentially. So for longer term basis, I don't know if I would do it if there's any reason for doing that. Because at some point the deployer is going to get those back. But I guess if you're scared of like getting rugged within like the first day or two, or like kind of how people will just quickly throw a coin and rug it quickly, that could be a good option. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody use a token lock in person, but I've heard of them for sure.
I've seen it. They do have an extra, like on Dex Screener. I'm not sure on Dex Fools, but on Dex Screener they do have like an extra promotional type of thing for doing it. So sometimes people will do it just for that. If it's something like this that I really don't have much care about, but I'll probably be in it for a couple of hours to a couple of days to a week, or who knows, like not a lot. If it's locked for a few months, I'm fine. I also have seen them lock it for, like 200 years just to make a statement. It's an interesting way of doing it. And then I've also seen times where they lock it for like 30 days, but they do that to create a little bit of fear so then they can bring their network in. And then once they have their network in, they then burn it or they extend the lock. So you can also use it strategically. So sometimes if you see like a bunch of whales and it's locked for 30 days, maybe there's something behind that strategy. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's all intent and
Yeah,
who's behind it.
that's smart. That's actually not a bad idea. Like, rather than burn it, you do like a 30-day token lock to garner like attention and volume and get holders in. And then before that fear hits the market of that anticipation of those coins getting sent back, you burn it. And then you've increased your holder base, I guess, through that potentially. That's a pretty unique idea. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, or you make it seem riskier than it is, and then you bring in your private network of people and you tell them the story of what's going on. And then once they all get in at that lower price because people are scared, then you lock, throw away the key and everybody goes in.
Right.
Or you rug everybody in 30 days. I mean, there's no, you really have to know who's doing it and why they're doing it.
Yep.
It all could be different. So those are some of the good things. I'm trying to think of what else you want to look at over here. Okay, thanks, Guy. Ask says, I did this for my project and I very much want to use it as bullish strategy. Great suggestions. Yeah, Tokyo Moon, I would suggest you definitely lock it for at least 3 months initially, or people don't really want to even touch it. And if you have no reason not to lock it for longer, I would lock it for a lot longer than that. And I don't know much about Streamflow. We'll have to take a look at that afterwards. And if you are trying to get us to shill Streamflow for you without sponsoring and having no way to sponsor because we don't offer that option yet, shame on you, but we'll still look at it anyways because it sounds really interesting. And I wish you best of luck on your launch. Let's talk about the social dynamics of getting rugged. Um,
Yeah, it's fun.
per-
It's a great way. It's a great way to make friends for sure, socially.
yeah, you're gonna make friends getting rugged, because if you're not making friends, you're getting rugged anyways, probably. So you
Yeah.
might as well make some friends with it.
You know
But
how that saying where you make, adverse times create the best friendships? That's getting rugged together. That'll do it for you. It's a good social setting to make close friendships.
I should have a lot of friends.
For real. For real.
But there's some things you can look at, like for example, if you know the people launching a token and the team behind it, obviously that's better than not. Anything on Pump Fund comes with a much higher risk of everything going wrong. Also on SunSwap and these other places, there's a much higher chance of people trading differently on the platform Pump.Fun than they will trade once it hits like Radium. And then
Yeah.
I think there's even some programs now for Ethereum launches, but it's not so popular. There's PRIB bot. I think it's PRIB or PRB bot. They have some kind of like launch pad program. Again, it all comes down to the intent of the people, and what they're going to do. But those types of launches very often come with higher risk. The next thing you'll very, very frequently see right now is, and almost no tokens just continue out of the gate hot. Very few of them do. And if they do, you want to see like, is the chart moving in this pattern that just seems like it's drawn? That could be really good. That means that there's sort of a market maker there and enough money that they're making sure it moves the way that they want to, especially if it is high volume. But if you see this consistent endpoint that it runs up to 1 million and then drops, runs up to 1 million and then drops, you might be getting farmed, where
Yes.
they're basically just bringing money into what looks like a good chart and then pulling it out consistently, but not too fast that it's a rug pull, but they're doing it at a consistent rate that you're getting farmed. And it's something to look at if a token cannot go past a certain point and it has very specific support and resistance lines.
Yeah, yeah, I see that happen so often, and there are times where tokens can kind of transcend that and like kind of beat the deployer's allocation. I saw the first time I really saw that on a large scale was Michi. I was in Michi very early on. One of our good friends, Finn Anashi, shilled it like 200K. And anyways, there was a ton of drama going on with the deployers the first couple weeks when it first started to blow up. Anyways, there was like this 10 mil, I can't remember exactly what number. It was like 10 mil market cap or something down to 5. And I'm not kidding. It had to have hit 10 million maybe 20 times in a row. And it just instant, like the same top wall, it's just sell off, sell off. And then you'd see market maker. And this is what you'll notice too when something's getting farmed is you'll see it hit the resistance. Let's say it's 1 million market cap. You'll see some of the bigger wallets like sell off kind of instantly, create that barrier, and then you'll see other people follow. It'll drop the price maybe to 4 or 5 million market cap, and then you'll see these kind of bot buys, but they're market making buys, right? They're kind of faking volume and kind of excitement at a support level to have other buyers kind of ape in and say, oh, here, this is the reversal point. This is when it's turning around. And then they just get farmed and sold off on and dumped on at 10 million. And it's a repeating cycle. And it's a way for, them to kind of slowly rug without like one clipping Hitlering the chart, kind of thing. So I've seen that a lot, but like I said, the largest scale was on Michi. The interesting thing about Michi though is it bounced between 10 and 5 million. I'm making those numbers up, but it bounced between those two support and resistance line, clearly getting farmed. I sold at a profit, but I was like, oh, this thing's so clearly getting farmed. And of course, there was so much buy pressure though. They basically ended up buying up all of the supply of the deployers or whoever was farming and selling off their bags. They bought that and kind of broke through that, and then they got a massive move up. They got tons of volume that flooded in the market, so that can happen too.
Although these days that's pretty rare that anybody has any real buy volume to pass anything.
I have not seen that since Michi, for the record. So don't count on that. If you see farming, I would probably get out personally.
Or understand the support and resistance, and you could play around in between if you want to, but know what it's a good idea to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Another thing to look at is oftentimes in like this chart here, you see this huge drop off.
Yeah.
It could be the dev dumped, it could be snipers dumping, who knows? But anyways, we call this a rug already. Then you see CTOs start to happen over here. And there's a couple of things to look out for now because most CTOs are actually not really good. The
Yeah.
first thing that you want to see when they set it up is just their behavior, if they speak clearly, if they have a plan. And then afterwards, a little bit down the line, you want to see what they're asking you for. If they immediately start asking you for marketing wallets, they have no ability to pay for anything. They could just be forming a Telegram group to pump their own bags that they bought at the bottom, then they dump it all on you and nothing goes forward. And
Yeah.
something that personally bothers me is that I don't really trust a CTO group until they pay for the Dex screener updates and the Dex tools updates. Yes, it does cost money, but you shouldn't step up to push a coin if you don't have the funds to do it because you're not really bringing any benefit to that coin. And then when they go and say, oh, we'll do like a multi-sig wallet, for example, it could be them and their friend, and they could easily rug you. You
Yeah.
also see times where they just send you a screenshot of an email from Dex Screener or some story. Probably you're about to get scammed. And oftentimes they'll lock the Telegram, say that they're going to do like a version 2 of the coin or something, and to send in your tokens, and you'll get back an airdrop with 20% bonus. Never send anything to these people. Never send money to a marketing wallet unless you know the person behind the marketing wallet. Never do anything unless you're going to pay for it yourself and put that transaction through to Dex Screener or Dex Tools. Now, once the CTO team has shown that they're going to pay for something and they pay for it actually, and you see it update, not just the story, what that's telling you is that this team has the potential to do something with this CTO. They're not just going to push raids for 30 minutes and disappear. They
Hmm.
have some money.
Hmm.
And it gives you a lot more trust in then wanting to contribute towards the future of that CTO after you see the team actually pay for something. But until they do it, and it bothers me when they say, oh, it's a community takeover, everybody should contribute. It's not about being cheap, it's about being smart because there's too many people out there that just take that money and they run. So why should I trust that person? And
Yeah.
then alternatively, why did you decide to take over the token if
Yeah.
you're completely broke and you have no ability to do anything for it?
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
does not do anything for anybody.
Yep.
Don't stand up to be a hero if you're just a
Yeah.
moron and
Yeah,
you
and
have
that's
no
what
money.
that's I agree, like, if you're gonna you know, it's great, like, if you wanna step up and take over a project and, hoorah, get everyone behind you, it's awesome, but it comes with a lot of responsibility, right? And especially being a good dev, and so if they're not able to or willing to pay, let's say, a couple $100 for a Dex screener update, or even, I know Dex tools, I believe, is more, it's maybe closer to $1,000.
It's no, now it's like $680
Is
in
it?
today's
Okay.
market
Oh,
because
wow.
you can buy, here's an insider tip. You can just buy Dex tokens. You need 1,500 Dex tokens
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of,
Yep.
and it's like $680.
Yeah, they
So
give you a
we're
big
not
discount.
talking like this giant investment.
Yeah, I agree, and so it says a lot, like, it's like somebody going and trying to step in and, like, run a business and boss everyone around and lead the project, and they don't have $200 to their name to, go take over a business. It's like, I'm not following you, you know? So that's important for sure. I was gonna say too, I don't know, if you saw this meme, but it's pretty funny because like you said, a lot of these CTOs nowadays, like, especially when they became kind of a meta, months ago when like the CTOs were kind of, and it still kind of is a meta, but most of these are pre-planned. It's like the deploying team is either anonymous or running on alt accounts, and they launch a token, they rug it, and then it's the same people coming in and saying, "Hey, let's CTO this, let's get it going." And I saw this meme, and it looked real, but they basically, this team, this dev or deployer, he launched the project rugged it, and clearly had an alt account, and he forgot to switch it in the Telegram, and it was from the owner's account. And he's like, "Hey, Dev Rug, let's get this back going." He's like, "Who's got the wallet? Let's start." And it's like, dude, you didn't switch your account, and then you just delete your Telegram. But it's like that stuff happens all the time. Like it's pre-planned, it's premeditated. They want to rug you and then push the coin and act like they're this, knight in shining armor CTO team, when it's like those are the people who just rugged you. So
And sometimes, like in this one here, I'm sort of curious because they're still holding a lot of the wallets. Sometimes they do that so they can collect money from the rug and then they push it through the CTO because people trust CTOs more. There is that thing that will happen. But I also see like a ton of scammers in these CTOs, and I like to sit back and wait to see how it goes. But if I see people scam me, what I do is I save their contact as scammer. And then that way, even if they change their name, it's still affiliated under my contact as scammer.
that's smart. Yeah, that's super smart. Yeah, and they're serial ruggers too. Like that's so funny too, because when the CTO meta was coming alive, you're right. It's like part of the reason it became such a strong meta is there's this stigma that, oh, if you're a CTO, like I said, you have, it's honorable, and it's the community taking the coin over. But usually it's just one or two dudes that create their own Telegram, the exact same thing you do as a deployer. Like the only step you're missing is like pressing the button to launch the contract. Everything else is the same. You're setting up your own Telegram, and they probably went and bought, after they dumped it, they probably bought a bunch of allocation for almost free, probably less than what it even cost to deploy the token. And so it's literally the exact same thing as deploying the wallet, except you're not clicking the button to deploy the wallet, but everything else is the same. So a lot of times CTO, quote unquote, it's not the community that's running the token. It's a deployer. It's a deployer team, the same exact way a dev team or deploying team would run a token. So yeah, it's just funny because a lot of people, they hear CTO, it's like this buzzword. Oh, it's the community. We're safe. It's like investors, and they're not out to get us. But most of the time, it's the same people. So
Yeah, and if it's not the same people, there's these roaming teams, aristocrats. Dev said in TG about a CTO coming. Yeah, very, very good chance it's a DTO, not a CTO, a dev takeover, not a community
that's pretty fun.
DTO. It's a DTO, not a CTO. And very often, when it's sad when this happens and it's frustrating, is you have a number of reasons why these are constantly failing. A, they have no money. Um, B, it's scammers and they're just going to lock the Telegram after they got it pinned in the original Telegram and tell you that to trade in your tokens or to put money towards a marketing wallet. Those are the two biggest ones that happen, or it just fizzles out. But really, in order for the engagement to be good, you need to update the dexes so that people who come can go to the correct one and feel trustworthy. And that initial small investment by a CTO team to update a dex themselves tells me there's a possibility, a chance that maybe they know what they're doing. They have some money to actually do something, and there's something good that can come out of it. But when they ask me for money and then try to shame me by saying, oh, it's a community takeover, I don't see people contributing. It's not about the money necessarily. It's more about building trust that you are there to do something for us. You're not there to scam us, and that you're capable of actually getting somewhere with this CTO. And if you can't spend a few $100s, that already raises a lot of questions for me, and that happens very often.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, very simple things to look out for, and small asks to save yourself a lot of money. Like if you're a meme coin trader, maybe you're hitting on 50% of your plays. Of those 50% of your plays that you lose on, probably half of those are rugs. You up your winning percentage by 30% just by eliminating the easy, non-rug plays by just going down the checklist. I think it's probably smart to like have a checklist, have one, two, three, four, 5 steps before I get in a project. Is it the honeypot? Is it certified that it's not a honeypot? Is the distribution good? Is the et cetera, right? Is the liquidity locked? All that sort of stuff you can put on a checklist, so you don't even have to think. You just go down the checklist real quick, check mark each bullet point. If it's good to go, you're safe. You can ape. And then also you should have an exit plan too. Maybe in the future we'll do an educational stream where we talk about being a real trader, because that's the thing. A lot of the people in the meme coin space, don't have a trading background. I'm blessed to have been a trader long before I was ever in the meme coin market. So I know a lot about risk to reward ratio, money management, trading psychology, all that sort of stuff is so important. It will take your trading from a 50% win rate to an 80% win rate. Just knowing how to scale out, being disciplined, having a plan, all that sort of stuff is so important. And I'd love to do a stream, maybe a little later on, like a trading stream where we can talk about market psychology and that sort of stuff. But anyways, all that stuff's so important. And it's just little, tiny little details that make such a big difference in your trading.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great topic to do a stream about. Unfortunately, crypto is ending tonight. There is no more crypto, so we will not be able to do that stream. We're going back to the US dollar. Crypto is over.
Yeah,
No, you can see us tomorrow on the Fiat Fans. It's our new show. No, yeah, that'd be a great one. But what, like you're saying, Storm, it's not that there's one right thing that you do that changes your whole trading world. Honestly, you're going to lose more than you win, especially on these short-term types of plays and just overall. But you only need a few big wins to really change everything. And if you start learning and accumulating the checklist of what to do before you trade, learning a little bit better trading habits, I think the psychology of trading on these types of market caps is more important than any type of technical analysis. If you start learning these things and practicing them and just skewing your trading to a little bit more winning than you had before, you'd be amazed at what a difference it's going to make to the money that you put into your pocket and to your success with trading meme coins. And instead of getting rugged, perhaps you might even make enough money to buy a nice rug for your house.
Yeah, it's a good quote.
Yeah, buy rugs. Well, that could get confused. Buy rugs. Don't
Nah,
get rugged.
nah, the
T
US
Hog says the US dollar is rugging.
that is
Uh,
that is true. That is a fact. Is 100% rug. The 100% the US government is the dev of the US dollar, and they're rugging the hell of it right now.
and there is a backdoor to that contract that allows them to deploy more tokens, if
Yeah.
anybody didn't know that.
Can you imagine just having a crypto token and the dev can just print unlimited supply when they want and then sell it? Like that's literally what the US economy is right now. It's the US government printing an infinite supply and selling it on our heads. That's what's happening to fund wars. So anyways, well, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but yeah, 100% the US dollar is the most infamous rug of all time.
Yeah, and Tyler, you had asked earlier about Moonshot on Deck Screener. I've never really used it. Are you familiar with it at all?
I know I've heard of it. I think I just saw someone talking about it. I think it was Finn was talking about Moonshot. I can't remember. I've never used it. I don't know exactly what it is. If you gave me a synopsis, I would definitely remember it. But someone was just talking about it the other day. Maybe Google it.
Could look it up real quickly. Here, I'm clicking Moonshot. Let me share the screen. United States of BitConnect Tokyo. Moon says soon, soon.
Moonshot. Is it like a monitoring? Is it like a screener that tries to catch early plays?
Is it pumped up fun?
It looks more of like a screener type thing where it like scans for tokens, is what I'm assuming.
No, this is different.
Oh, launch
Oh,
your
here.
token. It is a launch.
Yeah, it looks like some sort of version of pumped up fun.
Is it on Solana or is it on like Tron or something? Maybe different
Not Deck.
chain?
It's not ETH. It's not ETH that I can see. It looks Solana. We are
Oh
on
yeah,
Moonshot. It's like pumped up fun.
a launch pad. Yeah, yeah, it is like Pump Fun. Is it on a different chain though? Is it Solana chain or is it like a Tron or
It looks like it's Solana.
Solana? Okay. What's the benefits of this versus a Pump Fun is what I'm curious about. Oh Yeah. I think what this one is, it has a bunch of like set rules to make sure like devs can't, like the deployers can't rug you and kind of screw you over. I want to say that's what I think I heard about it. There's like specific criteria and like limitations it will automatically put in the deploying contract, is what I want to say. That's what I remember it being, but I'm not sure. Is there like an about section on it?
Well, well, we could talk about this. Maybe we'll do some Launchpad. We'll have a stream on Launchpad, so I don't want people to just watch us read
Yeah, that's
read
true.
stuff on the stream.
We've been
Tyler's
going.
good question. We'll definitely have to look more into it. It seems interesting though.
Yeah, yeah.
But remember, guys, there is nothing that can stop you from getting rugged. All these things that we're saying, you can still get rugged, no matter how safe you try to be.
And the
Um,
market the market can rug you too, by the way. That's a lot of times you see those crazy red candles to the downside. That's not always rugging either. That could just be a market panic. Like especially with when the state of the market's bad, people aren't super confident in the market. All it takes is a couple big sells to just have that cascading effect and everybody's out. So yeah, it's not always a scam just because it drops in price really fast. It's not always the deployer's fault. It's not always the team's fault. Um, yeah,
and there is no refund department. So you're getting
yeah.
into meme coins. It is high risk. You also don't win until you sell. You don't lose until you sell. So when things go down, you want to identify, am I getting rugged? Do I want to go and exit as quickly as possible? Is it just bad market conditions? And I believe in the token, so I don't want to sell. Maybe I want a dollar cost average, increase my position, increase the security of that coin by helping support it. Maybe I'm exiting for a moment or a time and I'm coming back. That's part of the trading psychology we could talk about. So there's many different ways, but definitely understand if you're getting rugged or not. Um, and look for the signs of that on the chart through the holders, through the distribution, through the contract, and all the other tools and items that we've spoken about. There's a lot of great bots out there, TTF, Safe Analyzer. There's some other ones for Solana. I'm not sure which at the exact moment, but we can put a list. I'll try to get a list of them and make a comment in the near future after this show on some resources that you can use to just check things and understand that, again, they make mistakes. They are not all correct, but they can help you reduce the times that you get hurt. Storm, anything else that you could think of?
No, it was a great stream. I'm glad we could touch base on this and cover it. I thought we had a lot of great engagement and questions, and it was a fun stream. So I like these educational streams. I think we should do more of them. Obviously, I'm great at the technical stuff and the trading side of it, as it pertains to like more technical trading and stuff like that. And I know you're obviously really good with the tokenomics and the contracts, and you have real experience running a token. And so, anyways, I think we have so much knowledge between the two of us. We should definitely do more of these educational streams. And I'm excited for them. This was fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's so many basic topics that people have a very limited education or understanding of, because a lot of the information that you're getting, A, is being fed to you to push a product or to push a token or to push an agenda. And being that we don't have sponsors or even affiliate links set up, there is no agenda being pushed. We just want to educate. We want people to be successful. And we want you to have a good bull run and just get rugged a little bit less. And even though we don't have any friends and you make friends through hard times getting rugged, we're willing to sacrifice our friendship with you so that you don't get rugged. Um,
Mhm.
all right, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. We're going to be doing more streams on different topics this week. Make sure to follow Blood Boy and make sure to follow Storm at Trading by Storm so that you get notified next time that we go live. If you missed any part of this, the recording is going to be up here. We're also on YouTube streaming as well and Twitch, and you'll see more clips posted soon. Everybody have a wonderful Sunday, and thank you for tuning in. As always, we are not sure when the stream ends, so we're going to awkwardly stare at the screen